Writing poetry outside under the eclipse of canopy skies. A dreaming adept since early in life, pushing boundaries foreign to most. Only the shamans, the people of knowledge, seers of yesteryear, can relate to the depose of my insane uttering. The most important tests are not intended nor administered by educational representative in classroom setting. There are trials where initiates must face the darkest terror of misshapen ghoul, dragon-faced demon souls, damned to menace those who would even consider embarking upon the adventure of life. Stones of fire, angel spirits, we are challenged to quick meander through what is the valley of the shadow of death. Some doors are meant to be opened by only the most trained in mystical pursuit. Most are lost along the way, stranded by the temptations of carnality, aligned to temper even those most dedicated in pursuit of the kingdom. Many never even come to understand the fray that they have exposed themselves to. This mission surpasses life and death, involves the voyage of eternal soul, sanctuary, the hunt for Holy Grail, search for the mythical fountain of youth. There are many seekers of lost paradise, hoping to cross mountains, breach the next horizon in discovery of some forbidden jewel. Most failed thinking the path external. The kingdom is within, Christ said, simple in eloquence, the signs he left for the hunters of lost estate. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is FallenAngels.tv. And as I had mentioned a couple weeks back, I told y'all I had been writing a lot of new poems, and that was one of them. I actually just finished typing it up maybe 20 minutes ago, and I've got a lot of them, and I've actually, in searching for an old poem, I found notebooks and notebooks of lost poetry, things that I never even put to computer, never even typed up, and I've forgotten about it really myself. And so I decided that I'm going to try at some point in the process of working on the other book focused on the war in heaven to compile some of this lost prose and to share it either in collaboration with the book I'm writing now or individualized in its own memoir, but that I am going to try to place some effort and emphasize that other aspect of my writing, the creative writing, and not just where I'm expounding and exegesis something as far as premise, the things that I've learned in reading over the many texts and books of wisdom and manuscripts, knowledge, and so, and it's been interesting for me because it's been really a long time that I've endeavored to put pen to paper in such way, which poetry used to be my main focus. The driving force of my life, the thing that really filled me with completion. And chasing my muse and seeking inspiration from nature and creation, that journey, that path is what led me to become who I am, and also guided me, directed me in coming to knowledge with the Creator and with the Son, and coming to discernment upon all of the strange things that I've now come to know. And that having lived my life different and being just being oriented in different aspects as far as what I chose to do with my day and the things that I chose to prioritize as far as my energy and my efforts. I wasn't one that liked to waste a lot of time, and I didn't want to be dedicated to the regular 9 to 5. I wasn't one that liked being under the directive as far as in job or labor, in being told, what to do and how to do it. And so I blazed my own path, as Robert Frost says. I basically went on the path untrodden, and that one that is filled with briars and thorns and strange creature and who knows what kind of boogeyman, or and that was the way that I lived my younger life. For those that don't know, because I have written about this, it's chapter 15 of my 7th book, Skyfall, The Angels of Destiny, where I tell the story of basically the strangeness of my upbringing and how it was that I wanted to do things differently, and my interest since in an early age, an interest in the mythology and the ancient mysteries, and those things that were anomalous and that did not fit into the normal routine or the normal explanation of life and who we were meant to be, or they were trying to assimilate us to be and shape us to be. And I know a lot of you are similar in aspect, and that you have lived your life, and that your journey has been relative to my own. I think that's why one of the things that that parallels our journey and that we see reflected in our friendships with one another and the fellowship that we share. As I consider us to be church, not that I'm any kind of a pastor or preacher or minister or anything like that, because I certainly learn as much as you may from me, from all of you, and that I consider us all to be brethren, equal in the walk, and that the journey is kind of same for all of us, even though that there are definitely some idiosyncrasies which are individualized, but for the most part, our awakening has been largely similar, and the isolation and the criticism and the harassment and the labels and all the negative connotations associated and placed upon those that are true seekers of the kingdom, that have dedicated themselves in such priority with their lives and the ways that they are, their focus every day, that we're shunned. We are shunned by families, loved ones, by our children, our parents, and that we are little understood. And because of that, most assert that we are crazy and we've fallen off of our rocker, and that that there's something wrong with us. And so that's how we contend, and that's how we deal with life. And for a lot of us, we're the black sheep of our families and of our communities, and that there are very few to really relate to where you can even speak about the strange things that we've come to know. And I want to share a story. I received an email from an individual, and I'm not going to name any names. I'm sure they'll know and they'll understand when they hear this in the archives. But I received an email from a person that has just recently discovered my work on YouTube, has listened to my shows. He says that he and his wife have been estranged from their family and from his parents for 6 years, and that they've little spoken, and that there's been a lot of angst and animosity between them because of their awakening, because of their placing, as we all have, emphasis on the truth and wanting to know what that entails, and also in putting the effort and forward to do the homework necessary to really understand as far as the matrix and our place within it, and how the overseers of basically what is a invisible prison, a prison with where the bars are built into our minds, and that the assimilation into such incarceration occurred long before we ever had choice, that as babes, that even our loving parents and grandparents and those that care for us the most, they indoctrinated us into what are the sentences of being a slave to the system. And they didn't know. They're slaves themselves, and we all are. Well, some of us have freed ourselves, but we're still having to comply to a certain degree to the way things are and to the journey as it's been laid out for us, because a lot of those decisions we were not privy to make for ourselves, that that a lot has been determined before we ever reached the age where we were going to seek out self-identity and try to define ourselves according to our own terms. And by then, you have no idea, but you're completely locked in that the way that you were raised, all the education that you garnered, the faith as far as, your spirituality, the basis of who you are and what you believe in and everything else has been tainted by having been forcefully raised in such a system, that if you do by chance break away and seek out something more and find something that can give you some guidance in some direction as far as your pursuit of freedom, well, then you are already lifetimes ahead of most in trying to find out what's really up and what's really going on. And that most people don't even, they will come to their deathbed and they have no idea as to what the true purpose, what this opportunity of life really entails, and what we were really here to do and to determine by the struggles that we've accomplished in every era of who we are, from child to elderly individual. And that even then, most have no idea and die a life which is riddled with more question than answer. And that's how subtle and devious the matrix is, that most that are born into it and most that even die within it remain lost and wayward and misguided, and that never ever find the answers as to what all of this is really about and who we really are and what we are here to really do. And it sounds almost cliche to say those kind of things, because of course everybody wants to know. I mean, and at some point in our lives, all of us have thought about these things. We've wondered we've entertained the larger questions of life and being. But for most, those are just trivial pursuits. Those are things which stand outside of the norms of what we're really to do with our time and our effort. That it's secondary to the goals and the dreams that have been laid out for us. The education, 9 to 5, get a good job, work, be good taxpayers, and hopefully if you have a job that has benefit and that, when you're 65 years old, if you make it that far, then you can actually retire to enjoy life to some degree. And that's the dream. That's the American dream. Hopefully in the interim, you will have enough money to buy a lot of really cool things and have a nice house and nice cars and a couple animals and a few kids, and all of that is supposed to somehow fulfill us, and that we're supposed to live within our means. And even though they encourage us to spend more than we take in and to build up a debt so we can have a good credit score so that you can then get more debt and borrow more money and pay more interest, and the cycle is insane. and how it is that we buy into all that. And I know I'm ranting. I'm just, I guess it's being with the poetry and writing, because these are the kind of things that I've been writing about. I think that really the book that I'm going to publish as far as the poetry will be something along the lines of Awakening to the Matrix, or Where Are the New Seers, or something of that nature. And that the poems that I write emphasize how it is that most have been deceived and led astray, and that most really have no concern, care nothing about anything other than materialism, the American dream, having a bunch of nice stuff, and being able to take care of our kids, and being good taxpayers, and watching our programming, and eating enough food, and indulging wherever we can in the pleasures of existence. And to some degree, this is what it's about. And then I'm going to stop at some point very soon, and we'll go into the text, because I'm going to be doing a show tomorrow night. I'll be guest with John the Baptist at Tribulation Now to talk about this particular text, and I'll be emphasizing some of the important points of it. But in the meantime, just to finish my rant, it's, even though the journey that we are to focus on the carnal aspects, and to indulge our flesh, and to cater to that aspect of who we are, to identify with our bodies and our life here on this planet, as far as living in the global economy, and being able to purchase and experience all the things available to us, as for those that have the money to be able to enjoy the luxuries of the various goods that are extended access to those that can afford them. I absolutely agree that a large part of life is that part of the journey. But the thing that is weird to me is that nobody seeks anything other. That nobody cares for anything more. And I guess I'm just weird that way. But for me, I want to leave a legacy of something that is meaningful and that will affect people in a way that far surpasses my being here upon the planet for the lifetime that I will be here. Whether it's my words, or my books, or these radio programs, whatever, I want to create something which helps people to understand the other side of it. Help them to break on through to the other side, and help them to understand lost paradise. And so, I guess I'm weird that way, and I guess all of you are weird that way. But hey, at least we're weird that way together. All right, we're going to go into the text, because I know we're quickly running out of time. I had stopped at the book of Atam and Ua. I had stopped on chapter 29. Also, I forgot because I was busy typing all of those poems up, which that was what I read today was just one poem, one real small part of the many that I typed up and put to print as far as on my computer. I had promised you that I would explain the prophecy of the 5.5 days as it's been laid out and repeated many times within this particular text, and that is a key passage and one of the focuses of this particular text, and it's also one of the reasons why the Thracians, which they preceded the Greeks and the Sumerians by 2,000 years, and why it was that they were the first Christians or believers or disciples of Christ, and how it is that they knew that he would come at some point into flesh form and to occupy flesh being. And so I will do that in the next one because I don't have the time for it today. But we're going to go ahead and go into the journey of this particular text and share commentary. And also I want to make mention that there's a possibility of at some point that I might stop doing this show just because I've done it for so long now, and I find even though there's always current events and current things happening, I've got so much that I need to focus on as far as my other pursuits and bringing certain projects to completion that I'm considering, and especially now that the audience has, and I know it's a lot to do with the holidays, but it seems like it would be all right for me to kind of do that and to take a break. And so just to give you a heads up. All right, we're going to go into the text. Chapter 29. But when the sly Satan saw Atam and Ua walking towards the Garden of Eden, he gathered his army and appeared to Atam and Ua as a spherical cloud, with the intention to deceive them again. And when Atam and Ua saw it, like in a vision, they thought that this were God's angels who came to comfort them for losing their place in the Garden of Eden, or that the angels came to them to take them back to this garden. And Atam lifted up his hands to God, begging to tell him what this was. And then Satan, who hates everything what good is, said to Atam, "O Atam, I am one of the avatars of the great God. Look at this army that surrounds me. God sent me in this army to lead you to the northern frontier of the Garden of Eden, to the shores of the clear river in which we will bathe you and Ua, and we will teach you how to speculate and how to meditate, so you can rise yourselves to your previous estate and return to your bright nature. So when you incarnate yourselves, you will reincarnate yourselves, you will be able to return to the Garden of Eden." Now again, remember that the individual that translated this text English is not his first language. He's Bulgarian. And that part of what I'm doing is, in reading this text, is highlighting those parts that I need to fix so that I can provide him what would be the most legible copy for what would be, a predominantly English reader. And so some of the things are out of context and out of place. But that is interesting to me as far as the whole meditation and speculation. These words penetrated Atam and Uah's hearts, but God kept his word away from Atam and did not make him understand at once, because God wanted to see how strong Atam was. God wanted to see if Atam would surrender as Uah did to surrender in the Garden of Eden, or if he would prevail. And then Satan shouted at Atam and Uah and said, "Look, we are going to the river where we will sit and meditate all together, so we can rise and enlighten ourselves." And they were gone. Reminds me of the Kundalini, how people meditate to be able to reach an elevated state. When they reached the mountain which was to the north of the Garden of Eden, a very high mountain without steps leading to its top, Satan came close to Atam and Uah and made them climb to the top with the intention to push them down and crush their heads. This way Satan would erase Atam and Uah's names from the face of the earth, so that this earth would belong only to Satan and his army. But when the merciful God saw Satan's different plans, and when he saw that Atam was soft and naive, he spoke to Satan with a thunder-like voice and cursed him. And then Satan and his army ran away. And Atam and Uah remained upward on the top of the mountain and viewed the wide open world. And Atam and Uah both cried before God and begged him for forgiveness. Then God's words came to Atam and said, "You must know and understand that Satan is planning to deceive you and your future descendants." That's interesting. And Atam cried before God and begged him to give him something from the Garden of Eden as a memory, so he might be comforted with it. God listened to Atam's wish and sent the archangel Michael to the sea which reaches India, so the angel would take from there golden sticks and bring them to Atam. God has done this through his wisdom, so these golden sticks might give Atam light during the night in the cave, and so Atam wouldn't fear the darkness. And so the archangel Michael went and brought to God the golden sticks according to God's will. After that, God ordered Archangel Michael to come down to the Garden of Eden and to tell to the cherub who guarded it this: "See, God ordered me to come down here and to take from the garden aromatic incense and to give it to Atam." And so the Archangel Gabriel came down. I wonder if that's like Gabriel. I guess it is, but it's with a V. Gabriel came down to the Garden of Eden and said to the cherub what God had told him. And the cherub said, "Very well," and Gabriel took the incense. And after that, God ordered to his Archangel Raphael to come down to the Garden of Eden and to speak to the cherub about the myrrh, which is for Atam. And the Archangel Raphael came down to the Garden of Eden and said to the cherub what God had ordered. And the cherub replied, "Very well," and then Raphael took the myrrh. The golden sticks were from the Indian Ocean, where precious stones are to be found. The incense was taken from the eastern frontier of the garden. And the myrrh was from the western frontier where once came the grief upon Adam. And so the angels brought to God these three things to the tree of life, which was placed in the garden. And God said to the angels, sink them in the water spring, and then sprinkle Adam and Ua with this water, so they may be comforted in their grief. And after that, give them these objects, so they may use them when they carry out all mysteries and offerings to God. The angels did what God had ordered them, and they gave the myrrh and incense and the golden sticks to Adam and Ua, who were still on the top of the mountain, in the place where Satan had taken them, when he wanted to kill them. And when Adam saw the golden sticks, the incense, and the myrrh, he was glad and cried because he thought that the gold was the sign for the kingdom from which he came, that the incense was the sign for the bright light which God took away from him, but the myrrh was the sign for the grief in which Adam was put in. So God started to teach Adam how to use them for the sake of God's mysteries. Chapter 31. After that, God said to Adam, you begged me to give you something from the Garden of Eden, and I have for you these three signs, so you might be comforted and so you might confide in me in our testament, because I will come to save you. And when I will become human flesh, kings will bring me gold, incense, and myrrh. The gold as a sign for my kingdom, incense as a sign for my divinity, and the myrrh as a sign for my suffering and death. And so, Adam, take these things to your cave. The gold will shine for you in the night. The incense is for you to smell its sweetness, and the myrrh is as a comforter for you in your grief. And when Adam heard these words from God, he bowed before him. He and Ua praised him and thanked him for showing them mercy. And then God ordered to the three archangels, Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael, to bring what they had taken and give to Adam. And the archangel had done so. And God ordered to Suriel and Salatil to take Adam and Ua away from the top of the mountain and lead them back to the cave of treasure. The archangels placed the gold in the southern side of the cave, the incense in the eastern side, and the myrrh in the western side, because the entrance to the cave was to the north. And the cave became Adam and Ua's first temple of God, where they sang their first holy ephod of the creation, glorifying God. In this cave, Adam and Ua made their first worshiping of God, according to all the secret mysteries that God had revealed to them. And God's angels were present when Adam and Ua glorified God, and they subdued to Adam. For God himself revealed to him great secrets, because God made him to be the first great holy man, a priest and a prophet. And after the angels comforted Adam and Ua, the presence of God the Word remained in their temple. The presence of God's Word remained in the temple, which we know that to be Christ. That's another one of the interesting things about this particular text and the book and the information contained within it, is that it shows and declares the interaction of Christ with our forefathers, our ancestors, our parents, Adam and Ua, or Adam and Eve, and that it was Christ who created them and also raised them the many times, I think it's 3 times in the text, where they are either killed or kill themselves, or come to some kind of demise, and then Christ, as the Word, is required to raise them again to life. Check chat room real quick. All right. Yeah, I'll let you know, Jazz, as far as if I do make it available. I'm gonna try to include it with the next publication, whatever is the publication of my next book, and to make it available to the public then, because I would hate for it to get lost. And I've also myself almost lost it previously a couple times. All right. Going back to the text. I'm glad that there's good dialogue and commentary in the chat room, and I appreciate all of you, and I hope that you had blessed holidays, however it was that you decided to celebrate them, and that you were able to share some beautiful time and memory with your loved ones and your family. The gold contained 70 sticks, the incense 12 libras, but the myrrh 3 libras, and these were the treasures of the temple. The treasures remained with Atam in the cave of the secrets. These 3 things God gave to Adam on the 3rd day after he had to leave the Garden of Eden. This was be as a sign and a memory for these 3 days through which God will stay in the heart of the earth. That is a reference to the Gospel of Nicodemus, when Christ, the 3 days where he was dead, that those 3 days he went down into Sheol, and he spent it with Adam and the other patriarchs that were then being contained and housed in the what is referenced as Abraham's bosom. And so this particular text is so prophetic, and all the things that it talks about, and all the different things that occurred to Christ. Even the fact of how when Adam was killed a certain way, it corresponded to Christ being stabbed in the side, on the right side, in the ribs. Also with being offered the bitter vinegar. Also with his having to die on the cross, his resurrection after 3 days. All these things, the prophecy of his coming into the flesh 5,500 years after Adam was banished from paradise. And so you can understand, having been given this book of wisdom, and that the Thracians honored it as one of their holy books, how it is and why it was that they were amongst the most ancient Christians. How this particular knowledge and these prophecies were honored amongst their people thousands of years, even before the Sumerian cultures and civilizations came into being, and the Greeks. All right. And these three things which continued to stay with Adam in the cave gave him light at night. But during the days they comforted Adam a little bit from his grief. Chapter 32. Adam and remained in the cave of the treasures till the 7th day. During this time they did not eat from what the earth gave, nor did they drink water. And at the daybreak of the 8th day, Adam said to O we begged God to give us something from the Garden of Eden, and he brought us what we needed through his angels. But now come with me to the river which we saw in the beginning. We shall take a stand in it and beg God to be kind again towards us, so he may take us back to the Garden of Eden. Or we will beg him to give us something from another land, different to ours, so we might be comforted. Afterwards, Adam and came from the cave. They went to the river and stood near it, the river in which before they tried to commit suicide by drowning themselves. And Adam said to come, go down to this place and do not leave it till the 30 days have passed. And then I will come back for you and do pray to God with burning heart and with a nice voice, so he may forgive us. I will go to another spot where I will do the same as you. Then came down to the water as Adam told her. Adam also came down to the water, and they prayed to God for forgiveness of the sin that they committed and begged him to give them back their previous bright status. And so Adam and stood there praying to God for 35 days. Chapter 33. Satan, who hates everything what good is, tried to find Adam and in the cave, but he couldn't find them there, despite his eager efforts. Though he found them later in the water praying and doing the holy mystery, and he thought to himself, Adam and are standing in the water begging God to forgive them their sin, so God would give them back their previous status and this way take them away from my hand. But I will cheat them so they will come out of the water and break their oath. And so he who hates what everything good is did not go to Adam, but approached instead, after he transformed delightfully into one of God's angels, and he said to her, Peace be with you, be glad and rejoice. Because God is kind to you, and he sent me to Atam. I brought to him the good news for your salvation. Adam got very happy when I told him that he would regain his previous status. And so he sent me to you to tell you to come to me so I might crown you with the same brightness as him. Adam said to me, Speak to if she doesn't want to come to you, then tell her about our sign when we were on top of the mountain. When God sent his angels to take us from there and placed us in the cave of the treasures. How they put the gold on the southern side, and how they put the incense on the eastern side, and how they put the myrrh on the western side. And now come and go to him. When heard these words, she got very glad, not knowing that this vision was from Satan himself. And she thought that this was from God. So she came out of the water. Walked behind Satan till they came close to Adam. And then Satan had hidden himself, but she couldn't see him anymore. Then stood somewhere in front of Adam while he stood near the water and rejoiced because of God's forgiveness. Shouted at Adam, and he returned. And when he saw her, he cried and hit himself on the chest. And because of the bitter grief, he sank in the water. But God saw his misfortune, how he was about to die. And then God's word came to him from heaven and took him out of the water, saying to him, Go to Ua, to the high shore of the river. And when Adam went to Ua, he said to her, Who told you to come here? Then she told him about the angel who appeared and spoke to her. And she told Adam about the angel giving her a sign. But Adam felt offended and got very sad and explained to her that this was the Satan. After that, Adam led her back and both came to the cave. These things happened to them for the second time when they went down to the water. That is, after the seventh day after they left the Garden of Eden. Adam and Ua fasted in the water for 35 days. In total, 42 days after they left the garden. But in the morning on the 43rd day, Adam and Ua came out from the cave very sad and sobbing. Their bodies were raw boned and were dried up of hunger and thirst because of the fasting and long prayers, and because of their huge grief caused by their sin. After they came out from the cave, they climbed the mountain which was located to the west of the Garden of Eden. And there on the mountain they begged God to forgive them their sin. After they prayed, Adam continued to be persistent before God, telling him, Oh my God, my Lord, my Creator, you made the four elements to gather, and they gathered on your order. Then you stretched out your hand and created me from one of the elements, the one of the earthly soil. And you brought me to the Garden of Eden on the third hour on Friday, which you told me in the cave. At that time, in the beginning, I didn't know what day and night is, because my nature was bright, and the light in which I lived never left me. And in that time, O God, in this third hour when you created me, you brought me to all the animals, the lions, ostriches, the heavenly birds, and everything that moves on earth which you created on the first hour before me. Hold on one second. I'm just making some corrections as we go. Alright, continuing. And accordingly your wish, I would give names to all animals, one after another, with its proper name. But you gave me understanding and knowledge, a pure heart, and a straight mind from you, so I would give them names according to your purpose. O God, you made them to obey me and ordered them not to divert from my authority over them, which you gave to me. But now all of them are alienated from me. And this happened on the third hour of the sixth day, Friday, in which you created me, at the time when you ordered me not to come close to the tree and not to eat from it, because you told me in the Garden of Eden, if you eat from it, you will die. And if you would like to punish me with death, I would already be dead instantly in that moment when you told me that. But when you ordered me not to come close to the tree and not to eat from it, Ua, who was not with me, you didn't create her yet. You didn't take her yet from my body, neither did she hear what you ordered me. Back then, at the end of the third hour on that Friday, O God, you gave me a nap, so I fell into a deep sleep, and then you took a rib from my side of my body and created from it Ua, to my image and resemblance. And after that I woke up, and when I saw and understood who she was, I said, this is bone from my bones and body from my body. Because of that, she will be called woman. And because of your kind will, God, you made me asleep and took from me Ua without me seeing how she was created. Neither could I be a witness, my God, to your tremendous and great kindness and glory. And because of your kind will, O God, you created both of us and gave us bright bodies and to be as one. You gave us your blessing and filled us with praise through the Holy Spirit so we wouldn't be hungry and thirsty and not to feel sadness and grief and not to have exhausted hearts and not to have to fasten or to get tired. But now, God, when we broke your commandment and offended you, you took us to this alien land and brought upon us grief, weakness, and hunger and thirst. That's why, God, now we beg you to give us something to eat from the Garden of Eden, so we may satisfy our bodies, and give us something to drink so we may reduce our thirst. Because, see, O God, we did not eat or drink for many days, and our bodies have dried out. Our strength has left us, and the sleep had run away from us because of the weakness and our time of sobbing. And, oh God, we don't dare to pick any fruit from the trees out of fear for you, because when we sinned in the beginning, you spared us and did not leave us to die. But now we thought in our hearts that if we eat fruits from the trees without your permission, then this time you would destroy and exterminate us from the face of the earth for good. And if we drink this water without your permission, you would finish us off and abruptly root us out. That's why, O God, I came to this place together with Ua, so we can beg you to give us fruit from the tree of Eden, so we may kill our hunger, because we need the fruit from the earth and everything else from it. Chapter 35. God looked again at Atam. He saw his weeping and his moaning, and God's word came to him and said, "O Atam, when you were in my Garden of Eden, you didn't know what was eating, drinking, weakness, misery, dried out bodies, changes, nor did the sleep run away from you. But when you made the mistake and came to this foreign land, all this inconvenience came to you." Afterward, God told the cherub who guarded the gate of Eden with a burning sword in his hand to take some fruits from the fig tree and to give it to Atam. The cherubim obeyed, or the cherubim, it's spelled with an H here, no C. The cherubim obeyed. He went to the Garden of Eden and came back with 2 figs and a leaf on each one, which hang on 2 branches. They were from one of the trees among which Atam and Ua hid before from God. And when God walked in the garden, and when God's word came to Atam and Ua, asking, "Atam, Atam, where are you?" And when Atam answered, "I am here, O God, when I heard the noise from you and your voice, I hid because I am naked." So the cherubim took these 2 figs and gave them to Atam and Ua by throwing them from a distance, because Atam and Ua could not come close to the cherubim, for their bodies could not be close to the fire. In the beginning, the angels trembled and were scared to Atam at his presence, but now it was the opposite. Atam was now scared and trembled at the sight of the angels. Wow, can you imagine the kind of glory that had to be put on Atam for the angels to be afraid of him? And to what kind of the reduction as far as their stature and their brightness, so that the opposite then became true. And then Adam came and picked up the fig, and took her share and picked up the other fig. After they picked up the figs and after they looked at them, they recognized that they were from the trees among which Adam and hid before from God. Chapter 36. Afterwards, Adam said to do you recognize these figs and their leaves with which we covered our bodies when we undressed our heavenly body? And now we don't know what disaster would happen to us when we eat from them. O let's restrain us and not eat from these fruits. Let's beg God to give us to eat fruit from the tree of life. And so Adam and restrained themselves and did not eat these figs. But Adam started to pray and to beg God to give him fruit from the tree of life by saying, O God, when we broke your commandment and had sin on the 6th hour on Friday, we were stripped naked from our heavenly body, which we had before, and after that we couldn't stay in the Garden of Eden for more than 3 hours. Because you banished us from it in the same evening. O God, we committed a sin and offended you in an hour, and all these bad things and sorrows came upon us to this very day. And these days, including the 43rd day, cannot outweigh that 1 hour in which we sin. O God, look at us with merciful eyes and don't pay back with same coin, despite that we broke your commandment in your presence. Oh God, give us fruit from the tree of life so we can eat and live. We don't want to look back and see the grief and other miseries on this earth because you are God. When we broke your commandment, your word banned us from the Garden of Eden and sent the cherub to guard the tree of life, so we wouldn't eat from it and live. And we learned about the weakness from that day when we sinned. But see now, O God, we prevailed all these days with sorrow and pain. Make these 43 days to be equal to the 1 hour in which we made a sin. And then God's word came to Adam and said to him, O Adam, regarding the tree of life, for which you prayed and begged, I will not give it to you now. But after the 5.5 days have been fulfilled, then I will give you fruit from the tree of life, and you will eat and live forever, you and and your righteous descendants. But these 43 days cannot repair the 1 hour in which you broke my commandment. O Adam, I gave you to eat from the fig tree under which you hid. Eat it, you and I will not turn my back on you and your prayers, neither will I disappoint you and take the hope from you. That's why try to stand firmly till the day of fulfillment of the testament which I made with you. And if you endure until the end, I will show you again the tree of life, and will allow you to eat from its fruits. So when you eat, you will live forever. And God withdrew his word from Adam. After that, Adam went back to and said to her, Stand up and take one of the figs, and I will take the other, and let's go to our cave. Adam and took their figs and started to walk toward the cave. It was at sundown, so they longed for eating the fruit. But Adam said to I am afraid to eat this fig. I don't know what will happen after we have eaten of these figs. All right, I'm going to read for about 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to end with commentary. For those that have, just now joined us as far as in chat, this is the fourth part of the series that I've done on the book of Atam and Ua, which again is a Thracian text that goes back 5,500 years before Christ, and that this particular information has so many prophecies within it which are connected to Christ and his coming incarnation into the flesh, how he would die on the cross, and that even the 3 days he would go down into Sheol, and that he would free Adam and all of the other patriarchs that were in Abraham's bosom, and then take them to paradise and give them over to the Archangel Michael for baptism in the Arturian lake, and that once they were baptized, and that this will happen to us as well. This was in the first resurrection, and that they were then allowed admittance into the city of God, into New Jerusalem, back into paradise. And that when because the full story of what I'm talking about, you can find in the book, The Gospel of Nicodemus, the Acts of Pilate, and that it gives a detailed accounting of all the things that I'm speaking about here. And that when they were taken and allowed admittance back into paradise, they encountered three individuals, because everybody else was held and contained in Abraham's bosom. But they came upon Enoch and Elijah, as both of them, were translated, had never seen death, and they were already in the city of God in New Jerusalem, and that they encountered the thief that had died on the cross with Christ, that was on the right hand of Christ, that he was told to go to paradise and wait for Christ to return with the patriarchs, and that he would be allowed to enter into paradise. As Christ promised him, when he asked him to remember him when he came into paradise, and Christ said, certainly you will be with me this day in paradise. Well, that all occurred. And I would encourage you to read, if you have not already, the Gospel of Nicodemus. It is one of the most beautiful and eloquent and powerful texts, wisdom text that has been left out, and that gives detail as to Christ's descent into hell and his overthrowing the gates of brass and the doors of iron. It's a really beautiful story. In fact, when I read it, because I have done a show, it's in the archives on this particular show. I'll get the name of it. I believe it's called Christ's Descent into Hell. Well, anyways, as I was reading the text, it would bring me to tears, and I'd just have to stop to regain my composure because of the beautiful way that it would touch you and resonate with your spirit. And for those of you that are, followers and disciples of Christ like I am, there's nothing like reading about who and what our Savior Messiah did for us. All right. Returning back to the text. That's why Adam cried and prayed to God, saying to him, "O God, quench my hunger without me eating this fig, because if I eat from it, what will I gain? And what will I say to you or beg from you, O God, when the fig will not be there any more after I eat it?" And Adam said again, "I am scared to eat it because I don't know what will happen to me after that." And then God's word came to Adam and said, "Oh Adam, why there was no dreadfulness, fasting, and this unrest, and why there was not this fear before you committed the sin. But when you came to dwell in this foreign land, your brute body could not be any longer without eating earthen food, which strengthens your body." Then God withdrew his word from Adam. Afterwards, Adam took the fig and placed it on the golden sticks. Took also her fig and placed it on the incense. Each fig weighed as a melon, because the fruit from the Garden of Eden was much bigger than the fruit from this earth. Adam and remained standing and fasted the whole night till the daybreak. And when the sun arose, they prayed, and after they stopped praying, Adam said to "O come and let's go to the border of the northern side of the Garden of Eden, to the place where flows the river and which is divided into 4 sleeves. There we will pray to God and beg him to give us to drink from the water of life." God did not feed us from the tree of life so we might live, but now we will beg him to give us the water of life, so our thirst might be quenched, and so we don't drink from this earthly water. And when heard these words from Adam, she agreed, and they went to the northern border, to the edge of the river, not far from Eden. Adam and took a stand and prayed to God, begging him to look at them once more, to forgive them, and to accept their wish. After both had finished praying, Adam started again to pray to God, but this time loudly, and he said, "O God, when I was in the Garden of Eden, and when I looked at the water which flows under the tree of life, my heart didn't wish to drink it, nor my body needed to drink. I didn't know what thirst was, because I was alive and I was on a higher level than now. I didn't need the food of life or the water of life in order to be able to live. But now, O God, I am dead. My body has dried out of thirst. Allow me to drink from the water of life so I may live. Have mercy, O God. Save me from this misery and all disadvantages, and take me to another land and different from ours, if you will not allow us to live in your garden." Chapter 39. Then God's word came to Adam and said to him, "O Adam, regarding what you have said, take me to a land where is peace and calmness. I say to you, this is not a land different from yours, but it is the heavenly kingdom, and only there is peace and calmness there. But you cannot enter it now, till your sentence has passed and the days have been fulfilled. Then I will allow you and your righteous descendants to go up to the heavenly kingdom, and I will give to you and to them peace which you want now." And again, that's a reference to the first resurrection, when in the Gospel of Nicodemus, when Christ, during the 3 days that he was dead, his body was dead, he went down into Sheol and restored Adam and all of the patriarchs back to paradise and returned to their first estate. And regarding what you said, give me to drink from the water of life so I may live. I can say that this cannot happen this day, but in the day when I will come down to hell to break the gates of copper, and when I will crush into pieces the iron kingdom, then I will be merciful and save your soul and the souls of the righteous once, and will give you peace in my garden. And again, regarding the water of life which you want, it will not be given to you today, but in the day when I will shed my blood in a place called Golgotha, because in that day my blood will be for you the water of life, and not only for you, but also for everyone who descended from you and who believes in me. So you all may rest forever, and you will drink from my blood and eat from my body, and you will have my life within you, because my body is real food, and my blood is real drink. And in this is the big mystery of life, that whoever feeds from my body and drinks from my blood will have eternal life. God said again to Adam, O Adam, when you were in the Garden of Eden, there were no disadvantages for you. But from the time when you broke my commandment, all these sufferings have come upon you. Now your body needs food and drink as well. So drink from the water on the earth, which flows near you. Then God withdrew his word from Adam. Adam and Ua bowed before God, and they walked from the river back to their cave. It was at noon, and when Adam and Ua came close to the cave, they saw a big fire burning near it. All right, we're going to stop there. We're at chapter 40. And so, again, I just want to remind everybody that I'll be joining John the Baptist tomorrow evening about 9:30 on his show tribulation-now.org, and that will be covering some of the interesting aspects of this text, and that a lot of his listeners have not heard about it, and to be able to share the background of this particular text, and also to cite its antiquity as far as going back to previous to the Sumerian culture and civilization, and how so many people believe, those in science and especially the students of Sumerian mythology, they believe that the Bible is based upon the Sumerian teachings, when that's absolutely a fallacy, and that we know, those that are true students of all the ancient texts, that the Sumerians are only the first post-flood culture, and not even the first post-flood culture, because again, the Thracians preceded them. And that knowledge of Christ and the prophecies that were laid out and given to Adam, as shown in this particular text, when he was exiled from paradise, were known by all of the patriarchs from Adam to Noah, and that all of this knowledge and all of this discernment preceded even the flood of Noah's day. And so I hope that all of you were blessed somewhat by this text, and I look forward to further fellowship with you. I pray that the Most High lead you and guide you in discernment and assist you in relationship with them. God bless all. We'll speak to everybody soon. Be blessed. Good night. The strange things that we've come to know. And I want to share a story. I received an email from an individual, and I'm not going to name any names. I'm sure they'll know and they'll understand when they hear this in the archives. But I received an email from a person that has just recently discovered my work on YouTube, has listened to my shows. He says that he and his wife have been estranged from their family and from his parents for 6 years, and that they've little spoken, and that there's been a lot of angst and animosity between them because of their awakening, because of their placing, as we all have, emphasis on the truth and wanting to know what that entails, and also in putting the effort and forward to do the homework necessary to really understand as far as the matrix and our place within it, and how the overseers of basically what is a invisible prison, a prison with where the bars are built into our minds, and that the assimilation into such incarceration occurred long before we ever had choice, that as babes, that even our loving parents and grandparents and those that care for us the most, they indoctrinated us into what are the sentences of being a slave to the system. And they didn't know. They're slaves themselves, and we all are. Well, some of us have freed ourselves, but we're still having to comply to a certain degree to the way things are and to the journey as it's been laid out for us, because a lot of those decisions we were not privy to make for ourselves. That one of them, I actually just finished typing it up maybe 20 minutes ago, and I've got a lot of them, and I've actually, in searching for an old poem, I found notebooks and notebooks of lost poetry, things that I never even put to computer, never even typed up, and I've forgotten about it really myself. And so I decided that I'm going to try at some point in the process of working on the other book focused on the war in heaven to compile some of this lost prose and to share it either in collaboration with the book I'm writing now or individualized in its own memoir, but that I am going to try to place some effort and emphasize that other aspect of my writing, the creative writing, and not just where I'm expounding and exegesis something as far as premise, the things that I've learned in reading over the many texts and books of wisdom and manuscripts, knowledge, and so, and it's been interesting for me because it's been really a long time that I've endeavored to put pen to paper in such way, which poetry used to be my main focus, the driving force of my life, the thing that really filled me with completion. and chasing my muse and seeking inspiration from nature and creation. That journey, that path is what led me to become who I am, and also guided me, directed me in coming to knowledge with the Creator and with the Son, and coming to discernment upon all of the strange things that I've now come to know to my own. I think that's why one of the things that that parallels our journey and that we see reflected in our friendships with one another and the fellowship that we share. As I consider us to be church, not that I'm any kind of a pastor or preacher or minister or anything like that, because I certainly learn as much as you may from me from all of you, and that I consider us all to be brethren, equal in the walk, and that the journey is kind of same for all of us, even though that there are definitely some idiosyncrasies which are individualized, but for the most part, our awakening has been largely similar, and the isolation and the criticism and the harassment and the labels and all the negative connotations associated and placed upon those that are true seekers of the kingdom, that have dedicated themselves in such priority with their lives and the ways that they are, their focus every day, that we're shunned. We are shunned by families, loved ones, by our children, our parents, and that we are little understood. And because of that, most assert that we are crazy and we've fallen off of our rocker, and that that there's something wrong with us. And so that's how we contend, and that's how we deal with life. And for a lot of us, we're the black sheep of our families and of our communities, and that there are very few to really relate to where you can even speak about writing poetry outside under the eclipse of canopy skies. A dreaming adept since early in life, pushing boundaries foreign to most. Only the shamans, the people of knowledge, seers of yesteryear, can relate to the depose of my insane uttering. The most important tests are not intended, nor administered by educational representative in classroom setting. There are trials where initiates must face the darkest terror of misshapen ghoul, dragon-faced demon souls, damned to menace those who would even consider embarking upon the adventure of life. Stones of fire, angel spirits, we are challenged to quick meander through what is the valley of the shadow of death. Some doors are meant to be opened by only the most trained in mystical pursuit. Most are lost along the way, stranded by the temptations of carnality, aligned to temper even those most dedicated in pursuit of the kingdom. Many never even come to understand the fray that they have exposed themselves to. This mission surpasses life and death, involves the voyage of eternal soul, sanctuary, the hunt for Holy Grail, search for the mythical fountain of youth. There are many seekers of lost paradise, hoping to cross mountains, breach the next horizon in discovery of some forbidden jewel. Most fail thinking the path external. The kingdom is within, Christ said, simple in eloquence, the signs he left for the hunters of lost estate. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is FallenAngels.tv. And as I had mentioned a couple weeks back, I told y'all I had been writing a lot of new poems, and that having lived my life different and being just being oriented in different aspects as far as what I chose to do with my day and the things that I chose to prioritize as far as my energy and my efforts. I wasn't one that liked to waste a lot of time, and I didn't want to be dedicated to the regular 9 to 5. I wasn't one that liked being under the directive as far as in job or labor, in being told, what to do and how to do it, and so I blazed my own path, as Robert Frost says. I basically went on the path untrodden, and that one that is filled with briars and thorns and strange creature and who knows what kind of boogeyman, or and that was the way that I lived my younger life. For those that don't know, because I have written about this, it's chapter 15 of my 7th book, Skyfall, The Angels of Destiny, where I tell the story of basically the strangeness of my upbringing and how it was that I wanted to do things differently, and my interest since in an early age, an interest in the mythology and the ancient mysteries, and for those things that were anomalous and that did not fit into the normal routine or the normal explanation of life and who we were meant to be, or they were trying to assimilate us to be and shape us to be, and I know a lot of you are similar in aspect, and that you have lived your life, and that your journey has been relative